So here's my open letter to past members. And I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for so many things that I wish I could have done differently if I only knew then what I know now. There are so many things I've come to realise that I may have done through the roles that I held whilst working for two of the biggest organisations in weight loss in the UK that could potentially have had damaging effects on people. And for that, I am truly sorry. The things I suppose I would like most to apologise for are implying that in some way you could eat unlimited quantities of any foods on certain lists that they have, and still lose weight. I wish I'd understood more about the limitations that our bodies have, of the calories that each one of us is required to have each day, so that I could have been better informed. I could have not just blindly gone with my training and fundamentally said if you hadn't lost weight that you weren't on plan, or that you can eat all of this food and still lose weight and then come in and be disappointed. I wish I had known more about your individual requirements, your personalised amount that you needed to enable you to be able to get the results and the success that you so desperately put your faith in me and the system to be able to help you to achieve. Now, before you shout me down, I'm not saying they don't work, because I've seen and been part of some incredible success stories. What I am saying is that they potentially don't work for everyone. And there are often weeks where we just don't know why it is 1 week we lost and 1 week we didn't. And that's hidden in the fact that we fundamentally don't know what we've eaten. We can't see it. We don't know how that compares to what we have. And I know that from my own personal experience. When I counted up the calories that I was having on a completely on-plan day, it ended up being over 2,400 calories. That's 900 a day more than I needed to be able to lose weight. So for that, I'm genuinely sorry. It's also, I was looking back and having a think about some of my members and some of the groups that I'd run. And I remember last summer having one group where only 9 people out of 68 lost weight, 11 maintained, and the rest either didn't lose weight at all, didn't weigh in, or maintained. So it helps me, I suppose, to better understand why there was such kind of a fluctuation for me. I also want to say I'm sorry for putting so many of you in the spotlight when you felt uncomfortable, and that may have led to you feeling shamed. I did what I was trained to do. I spoke to you. I engaged you in the group. I asked you questions. I asked you all kinds of potentially challenging questions. What's your week been like? What would you wish you'd done differently? People would have thrown suggestions at you, loads of which wouldn't have been helpful. And I could see sometimes on your faces that you didn't want to talk to me. But the rules of the game as such were that we engage with every single member in the room. And I could almost see that spotlight, almost like interrogation, coming your way for me to be able to talk to you. And there were some weeks and some people who I knew found that really uncomfortable. And I'm sorry. I wish I knew then what I know now about shame and embarrassing situations from the likes of Brené Brown, about how putting someone in that situation, asking them those questions, singling them out, making them feel like they're a failure, making them feel like they're not worthy, is not okay. No one should ever experience that. And I send my sincerest apologies to anyone and everyone who I ever made to feel in that way. It definitely was not my intention, but it was what I was asked and trained to do. I'm also sorry to those of you who came in with a weight loss, which I should have been celebrating because you'd got a weight loss, but I potentially didn't because you were off plan. I now know that that's not necessarily the right thing to have done. I now know because I've got some incredible people in my group, one of which, an amazing lady called Stacey, who this week, in just 5 days of following what I now do in terms of the calorie counting, where she was only having about 1,400 calories a day, between 1,400 and 1,500 calories a day, that she had had over 153 and a half sins in just 5 days. If she'd have come in, as she did to me, and say, I've lost 2 pounds, I wouldn't necessarily have been celebrating her. I wouldn't have been in that position. I'd have been saying, if you do that again, you won't necessarily guarantee yourself a weight loss. I would have been telling her that that's not the guaranteed way to do it, that she needed to be back on plan. I would not necessarily have celebrated that loss and left her feeling like she had made the incredible achievement that she had have done. And for anyone who has ever lost weight by not being on plan, I wish I had known then that you could be doing a million different things and still be within your calorie limits and getting a deficit and still losing weight, and that should have been okay. I'm also sorry I made you weigh in front of other people. I understand fully why it's done, but I also know it's not potentially the most healthy thing to do. In that moment, you're potentially at your most vulnerable. You've had that week, your expectation is high, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're a million things wrapped up in one. You're judging how you think your week has been. And then to top it all off, we make you weigh in front of other people and we don't give you time to process that number before there's a look, a comment, something written in your book, someone saying something to you. For those weeks where you didn't achieve the results you wanted, you have utter devastation. And we gave you no time to process that, to come to terms with that feeling that you had. And then for those of you that were staying, we then compounded that and made that even worse. And I'm sorry for that. You should all have been given the opportunity to weigh and then been given time to process whatever the result was. And for that, I am sorry. I guess that's why so few of you stayed. That sounds like a really brutal thing, isn't it? I guess that's why when people were doing so well, that week after week you wouldn't necessarily come back. There'd suddenly be a blip and you'd stop coming. You'd stop attending. I guess that's why when I look at the top performing consultants, their targets were 80% retention, not 100%. And I guess that makes sense if we're putting you through those pressures, if we're not giving you that chance. I wish that I had taught you when things went wrong how to cope in that situation, rather than making you feel like you'd done something wrong. I wish I had taught you to look at situations and look at the results that you'd received. And instead of blaming yourself or feeling like you're not worthy or even not understanding how you got that result when it was good, which is also a challenge, I wish I had taught you to simply look at that number and say, that's interesting. And come from a place where you can look at what you did differently, about what you'd achieved, about how you felt, about what you could have done differently should you want to, about why that may be the outcome that you've got. I wish I'd been able to teach you that it's okay to investigate it, and it's absolutely not about you, your self-worth, your belief in yourself and your abilities either. I'm also really sorry if in any way I've been party to have you having a distorted view of food and that relationship that we have with food. I think one of the scariest things I hear people talking about is this ongoing perception of what's good or bad food. And I think it's highlighted through plans like the ones I used to promote, because you live in a world of this being good food because it's allowed in unlimited quantities, or you don't have to count it. And then there's all this other stuff that's perceivably your bad food that you do have to count, that you can only limit. And we get into this kind of black and white view of that's good, that's bad. Those limits, if I go beyond them, that's it, I've failed. I'm now binging on everything because until I start again, I might as well make the most of it. I've said before that I consider that to be kind of your hungry human hippo moments. And I'm sorry, genuinely sorry for those moments. I also wish I had been able to talk to you more about the compound effect of your weight loss, about the fact that you needed 3,500 calories to be able to lose a pound in terms of a deficit every week. So do you know what? If you're a little bit over here and a little bit under there, it doesn't matter. It's okay. You can be in deficit one day and not in the next, and that's okay. It's that ongoing effect that we need to be able to look for. And being slightly over or slightly under should not and never should have been able to make or break how you felt about yourself. And I'm genuinely sorry about that. All food isn't equal. There are differences between it, and some of it's more nutritious than others. And I get that wholeheartedly. And I'm not necessarily just promoting that people eat junk forever. But I also know there has to be a balance, and it has to be sustainable, and it has to feel like your life. It needs to be all of those things. And if you want to lose weight, it's got to be something that you can do that doesn't turn your life upside down. That doesn't mean you have to compromise on everything and everyone around you. You don't have to stop being able to eat the foods you enjoy. You just have to find a way to make it work. And that has to be the right thing for you. So I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry for those of you that I didn't respond to in the way I wish I could now, who I didn't give the right kind of empathy or the right understanding to, and that I didn't know as much as I do. I wish I had asked more questions. I wish I had been braver. I wish I had pushed back further. I wish I had learned more. I wish I hadn't just trusted the organisations that I work for and the endless training that I was given. I wish I had just trusted my own instincts too. And potentially then I'd have been able to help more of you to have a healthier relationship with yourself and your food, like I hopefully am doing now. To all of you, I'm sorry. I wish you all the very best for the future, and take care.